Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be a video where I talk about my 20 favorite movies of all time. Starting off at number 20, I have the original Planet of the Apes. This is a movie that's very special to me because it was the first movie that inspired me to want to make my own movies. The story actually is I showed this movie to a friend of mine and my brother, and later that night after we had watched it, they were trying to kind of make their own little recreation of the movie. I saw them recreating it, so I had the idea, what if together we made our own short film, and then the next day we got to it and we just did like this big improv short film. And speaking of the original Planet of the Apes movies, I really wish that they would release these movies on 4K. If not the sequels, then at least just the original, because the original one is a classic, and it really does deserve the best quality possible. But it had a really big impact on me, and so for that reason it makes my top 20. At number 19, I have The Goonies. This is a movie I grew up watching a lot as a kid. A lot of these movies here, or at least a few of them, are movies that I watched a lot as a kid, and it's just always stuck with me, so I kind of contribute those to my love for film. The Goonies is another classic, just a really fun movie. Just like a lot of these movies, I can watch this movie a million times and never get tired of it. And for those reasons, it's number 19 on my list. Number 18 on my list is the original Scream. Now this here is a double pack with the reboot that came out a few years ago and then the original on 4K. The original Scream is just such a great movie. I watch it every Halloween season. That's one of those where it's not a Halloween season if I haven't watched it. It had such an impact on the horror genre, especially reviving it in the 90s after it started to die in the late 80s. It's one of the best slasher movies ever made, and it's personally one of my favorites. It does a great job at mixing humor in with seriousness. At the time it was made, Wes Craven was trying to find a way where he could sort of make fun of the way the horror genre had become, and in doing so he ended up inventing a brand new form of the horror genre. Scream is a 5 out of 5 slasher, a masterpiece among the horror genre, and for that reason it makes my top 20. Number 17 is Shaun of the Dead. In like 2017 or 2018, I discovered this movie for the first time, and I fell in love with it, and I fell in love with Edgar Wright and all his amazing movies that he's made. I just love his style of film and the way he edits his movies. I think it's a really unique style of editing, and this movie has such great humor. It's so funny, one of the funniest movies I've seen. It's my favorite zombie movie ever made, and it's another one of those movies where every Halloween I make sure I put this in my watch list for the month of October. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are such a great duo. I love the entire Cornetto trilogy with them in every single one of those movies, and Edgar Wright is the director. It's a great trilogy. This one's the standout though. This one I really like. I enjoy Hot Fuzz a lot too, but this one is without a doubt the best of the Cornetto trilogy. If you're into zombie movies and you have not seen Shaun of the Dead, or you're just looking for, a stupid comedy to watch, Shaun of the Dead is definitely up there as one of the best. At number 16, I have Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. Although if I can cheat a little, which I kind of plan to do later in the video too, I would put this whole trilogy at this number as well. These are another group of movies that I grew up watching a lot as a kid. This and Star Wars were like the two things I watched a ton as a kid. But growing up and watching these as an adult now, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is without a doubt the best one. Raiders of the Lost Ark is really good as well, Temple of Doom being the weakest of the trilogy. But the Last Crusade is just so entertaining. There's so many great moments in it, so much great memorable moments with Sean Connery as Indiana Jones' dad. All that stuff is just so good. But yeah, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, definitely on my top 20. Now we make it to the top 15. And at number 15, I have The Shining. This is a movie directed by Stanley Kubrick based on the novel that everybody knows by Stephen King. This movie is just a masterpiece. There's no other way to describe it. It's just a masterpiece all the way through. The acting, the cinematography, the directing, everything about this movie is just so good. I really kind of wanted to put this movie higher up, but this list was so hard to make. I tried to organize it the best that I could, but number 15 is where this landed for now. I mean, another day I could probably move this up to top 10 or even top 5, but as of right now I decided number 15. And a fun fact about this, if you didn't know, Stephen King actually hated this movie. Stanley Kubrick decided to do some things that were different from the novel, which, you know, I've read the novel and there are some big changes, but I don't think it's enough to say that the movie's bad, because the movie certainly isn't bad. This movie is one of the best movies ever made, directed by one of the best directors ever of all time. So yeah, if you haven't seen The Shining, then you're missing out. This is a masterpiece of a movie. And yeah, it makes number 15 on my list. At number 14, I have Christopher Nolan's The Prestige. There was a time in like maybe 2016, 2017 where I went on a streak of discovering and watching all of Christopher Nolan's movies. The Prestige was one of the first one of his that I watched, and it was such a experience watching this movie. If you don't know what this is about two magicians played, one's played by Hugh Jackman, the other one's played by Christian Bale. It's basically a tale about friends who become rivals, and their rivalry gets so deep that it gets to the point where they start to sabotage each other's shows. This movie is so good. It's probably my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. If we're talking about favorite, I think his best movie is Oppenheimer that just came out. Again, this list is my favorites. This isn't what I think is the best of the best. This is just personally what I think is my favorites. Unfortunately, I do still have this on Blu-ray. Kind of ashamed about that. I really need to get this upgraded to 4K, especially considering it's my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. It never goes on sale. It's always at a super high price, so I'm kind of just holding out, waiting that it goes on sale. But if it never does, then I may just eventually pick it up one of these days. But The Prestige, very good movie. If you have not seen it, it's so good. And for that reason, it gets number 14 on my list. Number 13 is Prisoners. This is another extremely well-made movie. A movie that I think is very underrated. I feel like not enough people talk about this movie. At this point in time, it doesn't even have a 4K release, which I feel like it 100% deserves a 4K release. Hugh Jackman also stars in this movie, and he gives one of the best performances in any movie that I have ever seen. This movie is about a father whose daughter goes missing on Thanksgiving Day. She's kidnapped, and he has no idea where she could be. He goes to the police, and a detective played by Jake Gyllenhaal takes the case, and he, does his detective work. However, Hugh Jackman isn't happy with how slow it's moving. Of course, the detective can only do so much, and he wants to keep everyone safe. But Hugh Jackman starts to investigate the case on his own, and he starts doing things that aren't exactly ethical, but he's doing it all so that he can find his daughter. This movie also has one of the craziest twists in a movie I've ever seen, so if you're into movies with crazy plot twists, this is one of those that's up there with one of the best twists ever. Yeah, this is a great movie. Highly recommend. And at number 12 on my list, I have Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill Volume 1. This is a very unique movie. I really love the style of this. I love all of Quentin Tarantino's movies. I've never seen a bad Quentin Tarantino movie. He really puts it all into his work. But to me, this is my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie and one of my favorite movies of all time. It's got a great mix of like Japanese samurai mixed with a Western. So if you're into a Western or into samurai stuff, or if you're into both, then this would be perfect because it blends it together, and you get Kill Bill Volume 1. Kill Bill Volume 2 is great as well, but I just personally prefer this one much more. I feel like this one has more action-based. Not that I think movies that don't have action are bad or boring or anything. I think the Volume 2 is very good and very well made as well. This one kind of leans more into the samurai sword fighting element genre, and that I really like. So Volume 2 could have easily made top 30, maybe top 50, but for my top 20, especially top 15, I decided to put Volume 1 in. And then at number 11, this is where I'm kind of going to cheat again. I have The Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2. This is a really cool box set, by the way, that I got. It's out of print now, but it slides out, and then it has a little book in it, and the book, you flip it open, and the discs are all in it with all the movies and all that. And then on the back of it is the cabin, so I think that's really cool. But anyways, these two Evil Dead movies are two of my favorite horror films of all time. They're created by and directed by one of my favorite directors and one of my biggest inspirations, Sam Raimi. I actually got to meet Sam Raimi a couple years ago at Texas Frightmare Weekend, and it was such a great experience. He was a really nice guy. He's kind of quiet, but I'm quiet too, so I kind of appreciate that. I understand that, him being quiet. His brother, however, Ted, I met him too, and he was the complete opposite. Very extroverted, very outgoing. But Sam was still really fun to meet, and he was still super nice. He shook my hand like 3 or 4 times. But back to the movies. The Evil Dead, if you don't know the story of it, it's a very low-budget movie. I'm pretty sure the story is that Sam Raimi made that in college. I believe he came up with the idea. He produced it to some people that funded it for him, so they gave him, I don't know how much, it wasn't a whole bunch of money, but it was enough to rent a cabin, get some camera equipment. He got his acting buddy Bruce Campbell that he had known since, I believe, middle school, and then they shot it, and they submitted it to film festivals. It became a huge hit, and from there they were able to make Evil Dead 2, which is the real entry on here. I included both because I just love both. But if I had to choose one, Evil Dead 2 specifically is the one that makes number 11 for me. Evil Dead 2 had a much bigger budget, meaning they could do so much more. They could have better quality, just better everything. Bruce Campbell also gets to shine more in the second one and show off his comedy that he can do. The first one is more horror, like straight horror, with some campy stuff. But the second one is basically full campy stuff. It's horror, but it's got a ton of comedy in it. So if you go into it expecting the first one to be more serious, and then the second one to be almost a straight up comedy. But yeah, the Evil Dead franchise, really important to me, really impactful to my love for film and especially horror. So yeah, the Evil Dead for sure gets a spot on my list. Now we're entering the top 10. Now this is a list that is pretty much solid. I thought about it very carefully and where I position everything. So number 10, I have Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars is huge for me. As a kid, this was pretty much all I was into. It was this and Indiana Jones. I had the VHS tape that I would watch, and then when the DVDs came out, I would watch the DVDs all the time. This is without a doubt the best Star Wars movie. Growing up, I really liked Return of the Jedi the most. But now that I'm older and watching these, it's 100% Empire Strikes Back. That's the best one. If I had to choose one Star Wars movie to watch for the rest of my life, and only one, it would either be Empire Strikes Back or it would be Revenge of the Sith. However, I think Empire Strikes Back is a much better, well-made movie overall. So Empire Strikes Back is what makes number 10 on my list. At number 9, I have The Usual Suspects. This movie has a really great cast. This is another movie that has an insane plot twist at the end of it. As you can tell, I really like movies with plot twists at the end of it. But this is a great crime thriller movie. If you haven't seen it, then I would highly recommend it. I remember the reason I watched this when I was maybe 15 or 16. I had just watched The Sixth Sense, and I was blown away by the twist ending to that. I had no idea that it was coming. And I looked up a list of movies that had really good twist endings, and this was one of the ones that popped up. So right after I finished The Sixth Sense, I went and watched this one. This is one of those movies that is so impactful to pop culture that you see it everywhere. There's been countless shows and movies that have spoofed it or done parodies of it and things like that. It's a truly iconic movie, and if you have not seen it, you need to see it. And it makes number 9 on my list. And number 8, I have Seven. Seven is one of the best thrillers of all time, one of the best psychological thrillers of all time. It's about 2 detectives who are trying to chase after a serial killer that is killing people that are committing one of the 7 sins. I can't remember the order of each of them, but just as an example, like the first one comes in, one of them is greed, and then some time passes, and then someone else dies, and that one was gluttony, and they're trying to get to him before he can finish all 7. But it's a really great movie. It's got Brad Pitt, Morgan Freeman, Kevin Spacey again. It's a really entertaining one, really suspenseful, especially the last 10 minutes of this movie. Just some of the best 10 minutes I've ever seen in a movie ever. It's so good. The ending to this is incredible. And yeah, it makes number 8 on my list. Number 7 on my list, I have Alien. This is a masterpiece of the sci-fi horror genre. Once again, another movie that had such a big impact on everything. It does so well at building suspense, because I think the alien doesn't get introduced into the movie till like the last act, and I think that's really cool. It does a great job at kind of keeping you paranoid and not knowing where the alien is or what's going to happen, because you only see the alien towards the end. So the whole time it's kind of like, where is it, what's going on, and things like that. And this movie introduces one of the best horror movie survivors of all time, Ripley. An iconic character, the best character in the entire Alien franchise. A new Alien just came out last year called Alien Romulus, and I really enjoyed that one. So I'm really excited to see where the Alien franchise goes from there. But this first one is definitely a masterpiece, and I do prefer this over the Aliens, the sequel, because like this one's more horror based. The second one is more sci-fi action. I still enjoy that, and I think it's cool. But for me, I really do appreciate this one more. At number 6, I have The Shawshank Redemption. This is one of the best written movies that I have ever watched. It's just such a good story. When people talk about masterpieces, this should be one of the first movies that comes to mind. From start to finish, it's just so good, so entertaining, has such a great flow. There's certain movies I watch, and then when I'm done with it, I'm like, for sure that gets a 5 out of 5. This is one of those movies. On IMDb, it's actually rated the #1 movie of all time. If I was making a video about the best movies of all time, this would probably make top 3, if not #1. But because this is my personal favorites list, it gets number 6. Now we are on to top 5, and at number 5 I have Silence of the Lambs. I know I keep bringing up the word masterpiece, but this movie here is a masterpiece. Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins give 2 of the best performances ever brought to film. I actually did an essay for this film in one of my college courses, so I spent a little extra time analyzing this movie and looking at its deeper themes and deeper meanings. So in that way, it's kind of special to me too, because I've grown kind of a special connection to it in that way. I wrote essays for other films in my time in college, but this one specifically, the essay that I wrote for this, I was very proud of. I really, really enjoyed this movie, and this is my favorite crime detective movie of all time. At number 4, I have a very confusing movie, Donnie Darko. You may be wondering, why do you have a confusing movie at such a high spot on your list? Well, the reason it is because I appreciate how confusing it is. A lot of people say they watch movies and it changed their life. This is a movie I watched and it did change my life. It made me realize that movies don't have to be so plain and so, straightforward. This movie was the first movie I watched that did something different, that made you think as an audience viewer. It's a movie that made me realize that as a filmmaker, you don't have to have your films be this means this means that. You don't have to baby your audience basically and treat them like they're children. You can go out and do some bizarre things, some things that don't make sense, maybe make sense to you as a filmmaker, but you don't have to hold the hands of the audience and tell them this is what this means. You can imply things, and then let the audience watch it and then see how they interpret those things. So you can watch this movie and you can say, oh, I think this is what happened, or I think this is what happened. And as a director, you wouldn't want to say, oh, no, this is what happened. I think it's cool that you can make something that can have multiple different meanings. And this was the first movie I watched that did something like that, and it really opened up my mind to what all is out there and what you can do as a storyteller. To give a little context about this movie, it's basically about a kid played by Jake Gyllenhaal who is awoken in the middle of the night by a man dressed in a bunny outfit. From there, it's a big journey about time travel and fate and a bunch of other stuff. It's very complicated, but it's one of those movies where if you like movies that challenges you and makes you want to think as you watch it, and then you come up with your own interpretation of it, this is the best one out there. I would say this is probably the one that started it all for those kind of films. But yeah, Donnie Darko I absolutely love, and it makes number 4 on my top 5. At number 3, I have the crime classic Goodfellas. I love mafia movies. They're one of my favorite genres of movies, and this is one of the best ones. It's directed by Martin Scorsese. Classic movie. It's got such a great cast. Robert De Niro, Joe Pesci, Ray Liotta. Forgot his name for a minute. But this is a classic. Everybody knows what Goodfellas is. Even if you haven't seen it, you know what it is. You've seen the poster. You've probably even seen clips. It's a classic, a masterpiece, as I keep saying. But it's very good, very entertaining, and one of the best mafia movies ever made. And then speaking of mafia movies, at number 2, I have what, if this was a best movies of all time list, this would be number 1. But because it's my favorites, it's number 2 on my favorites. That movie is The Godfather. This movie is a 100% all the way through masterpiece. There's nothing wrong with it at all. There's nothing I can complain about it. The story is so good. In fact, this is one of those movies where if I was a teacher teaching about film, this is one of the movies that I would show based on the incredible storytelling, the incredible acting by Al Pacino, and the cinematography, the sound design, everything about it is just so 100% good. I know there's a lot of people out there that prefer The Godfather Part 2 over this and consider that one a better movie, or even favored it more. But me personally, The Godfather I think is just a better all the way through movie. The Godfather Part 2 has some moments where it gets a little slow, which you could say the same about this one, but I feel like this one is just so well paced. It's 3 hours long, but it feels like it flies by so quick, and it's an iconic movie, and in my opinion, it's probably the best written movie of all time. Alright, and now time for the big one. This is my number 1 favorite movie of all time, and that movie is Back to the Future. You may not have expected this, I don't know, based on all these other movies, especially what it was leading with mafia kind of stuff, but number 1 is without a doubt Back to the Future. I remember as a kid, my dad had a laptop where he had some movies on it, along with my Star Wars DVDs and my Indiana Jones DVDs. The computer, we had like files on it of movies. There was episodes of SpongeBob, and then there was Back to the Future and Back to the Future Part 2. I have really good memories of watching this a lot as a kid, both the first one and the second one. But in particular, Back to the Future, the first one, is my favorite movie of all time. If I had to get rid of every movie that I own and only keep one movie for the rest of my life, it would be Back to the Future. To me, it's just so fun and so entertaining. The music in it's great. It makes me feel really good when I watch it. And that's the kind of movie that I want as my number 1 favorite of all time. And that's it. That's my top 20 movies, my top 20 favorite movies of all time. I hope you enjoyed, and I'm curious, anyone that watched this, if you have your own top 20 or your top, even just your top 3, maybe comment and let me know. Maybe one day I'll do a top 10 best movies of all time. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this list. I hope you enjoyed hearing me talk about some of my favorite movies. Please like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next videos.